And one. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is an amazing way for you to exit highly appreciated assets, defer millions of dollars of capital gains tax. You can create and preserve more wealth, and also build a wealth legacy to make an impact for your family and the community around you. Hi, I'm Brett Swarts, founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions. If you're listening today is our big book launch, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. I want to encourage you right now to stop everything you're doing, go to Amazon to get your free gift, a Kindle version, no cost to you. If you go to your Amazon account and search Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan, and you can download that Kindle version today. Hey, I'm excited about our guest today. He's on a mission to help his clients, friends, family, and individuals build and create wealth in a way that's systematic, that is thoughtful, that is intentional, and that has an impact to help others. He's become a good friend of mine now, and he's here locally in Sacramento, California. Please welcome to the show with me, Joe Walters. Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Hey, congratulations, man. This book has been something we've been talking about, you've been working hard on, and I can't wait to read it. This is an exciting day.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give them a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Sure. Yeah. My name is Joe Walters, been a certified financial planner here in Sacramento. I started in this business in 2001 with Morgan Stanley, and it has been an amazing career. My father was in this business, and it's something that we've been passionate about. And he emphasized with me that there's more to being an advisor than just managing money and helping people with their financial plan, but really finding unique solutions that can protect clients' money from taxes and other types of risks. So I've just had a blast doing that for clients. I handle a small number of high net worth families and businesses all over the country. And it's been a great joy. So, right here in Sacramento, It's a beautiful day. Golden One Center behind me. The Sacramento Kings are tearing it up.
Let's pause right there for a second, because I don't want to overstate. I don't want to understate that the Sacramento Kings right now, it's like my heart is coming alive again. It's been 17 years since they've been in the playoffs. As it pertains to basketball. Since the Robert Horry, tip out, or Vlade tipping it out to Robert, Robert hitting the three, breaking all of our hearts. And let alone all of the shenanigans with refs getting paid to do stuff and go to jail. That's behind us now, because hopefully we're going to knock off the defending world champions, a dynasty here. Honestly, Joe, I'm watching this game and I can't look away. Number one. Number two, I'm so fired up, like the way, how hard we're playing, how tough we are. Like, we want it more. Like, what do you think?
Oh, it's so exciting. My 23-year-old son and I went to the game too. The famous foot stomping from Draymond to Sabonis. It's just been crazy. And the atmosphere at Golden One is insane. When you leave, the Doco Center is beautiful, with just full of people. Everyone's yelling, "Light the beam." The beam goes off and just people go nuts. The signs out here are all lit up in LED screens. It looks like Town Square, Madison Square Garden area. It's just, all of it's been just transformational here in Sacramento.
So awesome. So excited. And I think game 3, is it tonight or tomorrow night? Tonight. Okay. So that's we'll probably have to come back on another podcast just to talk about that series and everything we're learning in that. But yeah, Joe, I love that you have a history with your dad in the business, and I love that you're serving a select group of high net worth families throughout the country. And I love your heart for service and looking out for people, right? Which is really an amazing thing that a certified financial planner can do for you if you're listening to this. And so let's dive into, now that you've learned about the Deferred Sales Trust, by the way, the episode is called Building a Legacy with Your Wealth Using a Deferred Sales Trust. It's going on the theme, a part of the book today. But Joe, we've spent some time together now. We've closed the first large transaction for one of your clients who actually sold a big media company locally there in Sacramento. And I would just want to say, what would you say the biggest secret is to building a legacy with your wealth using a Deferred Sales Trust?
Well, first of all is building your assets, typically high net worth families build their assets through business development, through real estate development. And so as these kind of private placement type assets, they are highly concentrated, and they have started from nothing to something incredible. And the goal for any family to help them live out their legacy is to, how do you diversify them? How do you transition them from actively involved in this development of a business or a real estate portfolio to being able to transfer into a passive or a semi-passive environment where they're no longer under the burdens of this environment? Especially here in California, the burdens are increasing, not decreasing. COVID was an acceleration of burdens and administrative pain, but it's just been increasing year by year or cycle by cycle of new government regulations and challenges. So a lot of our clients are getting to a point where they want to change, and to make a change, they need to transfer assets, move assets around. And in order for them to do that efficiently, they need to know about capital gains tax solutions. And the Deferred Sales Trust is by far the most efficient way of transferring a highly appreciated asset into a diversified portfolio without paying the capital gains, which is monumental in California, where you're going to hit a level of taxes on a sale of 38%. So to give up 40 cents on the dollar when you've been paying your taxes fairly every year to build this asset is something that we don't want to see happen. We want to see you defer it. We want to see you grow it and receive more income off of it to benefit
Excellent.
you and your family and the causes you care about. All of this is a legacy for you and your family. So,
and I love the way you put that. You said it felt like, it feels like, and it does, being from California for all these years, growing up there in Sacramento, in the Bay Area as well, the burdens seem to be increasing, right? And the government, I think we all agree, has a spending problem. I think it's around $32 trillion of debt, which means what? We have a tax problem, right? Because that's where the government gets the money. And so those burdens are increasing and you're right, COVID has accelerated those burdens and has flushed a lot of printed dollars into the economy, which inflated some things. And now we're seeing the effects of that here a couple of years later, and everything is shifting, which creates more reasons to diversify and to not have all your eggs overly concentrated in one single asset. And so I love the way you put that. And it also sounds like clients are wanting a change, right? They're wanting a change in location. They're wanting a change in the way that they, build wealth, and or if they're having to be active versus, a little more passive, and wanting an efficient way to do that. And the DST has been that solution. Is that a fair summary, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we have baby boomers who are reaching an age where, a lot of them would probably have made this move 5 years ago, but assets were appreciating so quickly over the last 5 years until we hit 22. And then once we saw this kind of inflationary environment hit, assets started depreciating. It was like a wake-up call for a lot of our clients. We got to get off these assets. We got to transition and move them into something safer and diversify it. Not only that, but we have an interest rate environment where, you can get, 6-month T-bills for 5%. And so the competition for your dollar, as far as getting a return on your money, is looking a little bit sweeter on the safer end of the spectrum. So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, U.S. government T-bills, think about it, 4% and 5%, and it's backed by the U.S. government. I don't know if it gets safer than that, but it's here, which leads into maybe the second secret to building a legacy with your wealth using the DST. Not only is it an efficient way to exit and defer up to 100% of your capital gains tax and depreciation recapture, which I agree with you. It's about 37%. It's typically the minimum, right? But then it creeps to 40, 45, 50. If it's a C Corp, I've seen as high as 60, 65% of the gain. And especially in California, or a place like New York or New Jersey, these really high tax states. So besides being an efficient way to defer that tax, what's the number two secrets as it pertains perhaps to the estate tax and how that looks?
Yeah, right now we're looking at the estate tax exemption, a little above a 12. So a married couple getting like closer to $24-25 million estate tax exemption, which is really beneficial for most families. But a lot of the families we work with are above that. So they're looking at ways of not only deferring the sales tax, but how do we create a plan for them as a team that can reduce the estate tax? Because the estate tax is 50%. So imagine growing your business or your real estate, and over time it develops and you're paying your 40-50% income tax every year. And then when you sell the asset, you're paying another 40, possibly 65. And then when you transition it to the next generation, they want to charge 50. So these are things that are avoidable with good strategic planning, with a good team. And so we can use the deferred sales tax, the 2.0, to avoid that estate tax. And so it's not we can use this for the DST can be used for both of the issues that we deal with, which is the capital gains issue and also the estate tax.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's cover that. And by the way, for some reason, I thought estate tax was 40%, but is it now 50 or is it going to 50?
Well, it depends on your state. So you got federal plus state.
Okay, so federal plus state. So if you live in California, and let's just say you're worth $100 million and you're married, so you have a 24 million exemption. Let's just call it 75 is inside of there now. It would be 40 plus 10. Is that what you're saying? So it'd be 50?
Yeah. So you're talking about $37 million tax.
Wow. So yeah, I guess it's even more there. So yeah, that's huge, right? And so the challenge is most people are either gifting or they're trying to gift away to kids, buy a bunch of life insurance, get it all the way to charity, which is totally cool too, but they may not want to give it all the way to charity. Part of the efficiency that Joe and I are talking about here, just so you know, let's imagine you own that business there in Sacramento and you're going to sell, and one day in one transaction, it needs to be a third-party buyer who's buying it for fair market value. We can transition that $100 million business outside of your taxable estate, which eliminates that estate tax. So then not only that, Joe, talk about what happens to that $100 million if it's growing and diversified portfolio, liquid investments or some real estate, what that looks like long-term.
Well, what's beautiful about it is that with the Deferred Sales Trust, we can invest in anything. So essentially, we can invest in real estate assets. We can invest in liquid assets, treasury bills, all the way into the stock market. So we can diversify the whole portfolio. So we have full control of it as well. So there's we can grow the assets, and then it creates the income that clients need. So we can grow the assets over time to outpace inflation, plus pay for the distributions for income and provide their family a lasting legacy.
Just a second, but we're streaming on YouTube, by the way. If you haven't checked our YouTube channel, go to Capital Gains Tax Solutions for our YouTube channel. This will also be released on iTunes. You can check that out. So let's see if Joe does come back here in a second. Joe, are you back?
Yeah, am I back?
You're back, baby. We were just doing a little commercial there. RJ Wealth, rjlegacywealth.com, rjlegacywealth.com. So you cut off there. Maybe just rewind about 20 seconds and then keep going.
Yeah, as far as investing with the Deferred Sales Trust, I mean, you're getting out of the asset that you want to sell. You can diversify that into many things. So we can build a portfolio that has a balance between, as far as what you're comfortable with risk. Our goal, though, is to make sure that we capture enough returns to pay out the distribution of whatever that income level you've committed yourself to before you set it up. So let's say that's 5%. So we want to provide you with the 5% income level, but we also want to build a portfolio that the principal growth is outpacing inflation and hitting your long-term estate planning goals.
Yeah. So combining all of those into one and making an efficient way to do that. Some of the terms we use, it's not just about cash flow, it's about tax flow.
Yep.
And of course, as a part of that, it's diversification. It's not over concentrating. It's having a mix between investments that's not over concentrated in a single business, single piece of real estate. You might own a high-end primary home in the Bay Area or in the Fab 40s. You own for many, many years. It doesn't qualify for a 1031 exchange. Guess what? The Deferred Sales Trust works for primary homes, businesses, C Corps, S Corps, LLCs. Also works for public or private stock. You might have a highly appreciated, public stock position or cryptocurrency that you want to exit and diversify and be able to, live off some cash flow. A lot of assets sometimes, I know, tell me if you agree with this, Joe. people feel real estate rich or even business rich
Yeah.
on the valuation, but
Right.
maybe cash flow it's a little bit lighter, right?
Right.
And they're saying, wow, what if there's a way to unlock this capital, this kind of sleeping capital, if you will, and put it into investments that are producing cash flow? Talk
Right.
about some dividend paying stocks, Joe, and what those are looking like and what those are averaging. I'm kind of curious on what you're seeing in today's values.
Yeah, it's interesting is, you go back when I started in the business and before that, when my father was in the business, you could get dividends that were 4 or 5% on, but as we kind of turned over into a new, technological revolution in the marketplace, we had a lot more growth oriented stocks. And suddenly the dividend cash flow, especially as interest rate environment has come down over the last 25 years, there's been not a lot of competition for corporations to push their dividends upward. So you have technology companies reinvesting their dividends to get more growth, but you also have an interest rate environment where if the 10-year treasury is paying 1.5 or 2%, then your dividend doesn't have to be 2, 3, 4% to compete. I would suspect dividends start increasing. 22 was an interesting year because when we saw interest rates spike a bunch, what became much more in favor for the first time in the last 12 years was dividend paying value oriented stocks. And so that's become a little bit more attractive as far as growth. Because when we look at the last 12 years, growth stocks with very low dividends way outperformed the value side. Now we're starting to look at value stocks being a lot more attractive in valuation, but also in dividend payments. And I would suspect that those high cash flow companies are going to start increasing their dividends to compete with the new higher yield environment that we're in.
Okay. And so on average, if you had to take the top 50 strongest companies that are paying dividends today in America, let's just say keep it simple, what would you say that average might be? Would it be 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 7
You're probably
or 8?
talking 3 to 4%.
Okay.
Yeah. If you find corporations or even, especially closed-end funds and other types of vehicles, but when you start seeing 7, 8, 9, 10%, you're definitely exchanging that for principal growth, and or you're dealing with a corporation that the price has come down so much because of some concerns about future earnings, and you're probably going to be dealing with a dividend cut. One thing that you want to look for, that we look for when we're investing for dividends, is a company that has committed themselves to consistent growth of their dividend with never cutting their dividends, which requires a high cash flow type of company. And so those are the types of companies that if the market does turn on us, they're highly protected because their cash flow is so secure that there's a moat around their company that is, very attractive in tough markets.
Okay, so that's a really good point. So a company that has a track record of commitment to keeping their commitments and hitting their targets, obviously too, and paying out that dividend and growing that dividend and have enough strength to wherewithal within storms, so you can have a durable, consistent dividend paying out. That's interesting. I'm wondering what of the top 100 companies in America, how many, is it 10% of those that you would feel good about, 20%, 30%? What would you feel like,
The S&P 500, yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, but the S&P 500 is, you're probably talking about 15, 20% of those companies that they would call dividend aristocrats. They're these types of corporations that have committed themselves to raising their rates, consistently and never reducing them. But you also are going to deal with, like I said, you're going to deal with corporations with not a lot of earnings growth. And more growth means more volatility in your earnings. More volatility in your earnings means less consistent cash flow, which means less consistent dividends.
Fascinating. I love that. Never reducing them and committed to growing them. That makes sense. We're speaking with Joe Walters. You can learn more about Joe. He's with Legacy Wealth Management in Sacramento. rjlegacywealth.com. It's part of that. It's Raymond James, but rjlegacywealth.com to learn more about Joe Walters and get connected. And we're talking about building a legacy with your wealth using a DST. For those who don't know what a DST is, it's a Deferred Sales Trust. It's also something called a Delaware Statutory Trust that helps you to defer capital gains tax on investment property, whereas the Deferred Sales Trust works for all assets of any kind. As long as there's $1 million net proceeds and $1 million gain, you qualify. You can go to rjlegacywealth.com to learn more. That being said, Joe, we are running out of time. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Okay, hit me.
All right. Knowing what you know now, Joe, if you could go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget and make sure to tell yourself to do?
At 25 years old, I had two kids already. And I would say to myself, spend special time with each one of them, not just together, the whole family, but try to give each kid a very special time, at least once a month or so, to say, to hear them out as an individual person. And I would have been much more committed to exercise. You feel invincible in your early 20s, and then you hit like 25, and that's when things start to like slow down, and you're so committed to work and family and everything else that you start becoming unhealthy. And so I wasn't until 35, Brett, that I committed to, instead of going out to lunch with colleagues and eating a high carb 1,000 calorie meal, I went out to work out and came back, and I had so much energy, and it allowed me to be a lot more productive. And even though I was losing networking time or time with other people, it gave me such better health and energy.
Love that answer, Joe. Second question, what's the number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
I volunteer as a pastor of a church. And so I typically am talking theology. I'm sharing scripture and encouraging people to know the Lord and to grow in their faith. And so there's a lot of books I've recommended for that, but I talk about the Bible a lot. So I love talking about that. And so having clients, friends, families that I get to share scripture with and discuss, it's always a joy of mine.
Absolutely. Love that, Joe. Third question, what are you most curious about right now?
I'm most curious about CRISPR technology, artificial intelligence, these kind of pioneer areas that are going to be explosive and transformational. Artificial intelligence, we're all familiar with it, Chat GPT and these other techniques. How is that going to change the industries? How's it going to improve our world? And where's the economic impact going to be most felt? And how can I help my clients get exposed to it in a safe way? Second one is CRISPR technology. To be able to edit DNA is a Nobel Prize winning technology. There's a great book on it from Walter Isaacson on Code Breaker. And so this woman won the Nobel Prize for this, Jennifer Doudna. She's pioneered this technology. And so the ability to edit DNA to, let's say, remove something like sickle cell anemia or some type of disease so that the child doesn't have it, isn't born with it, it's just not in their DNA. Incredibly transformational. So rather than waiting for the disease to happen and trying to cut it out or pharmaceutically deal with it, it is remove it from ever happening. And so this is really interesting, really exciting, and could become quite dangerous. We don't know. So with great power comes great responsibility.
Wow, that's really fascinating. You got me fascinating too. I want to check that book out. Second to last question, Joe. What's your number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
As Tom Collins wrote, "Good to Great," and that's something that's stuck with me as far as leadership goes. Finding out who is the best person for each job that is within your organization, so that they can thrive in it, enjoy it, and excel in it. And then, moving people around to really do well in what they want to do, having them be a part of the creation of different business structures so that they can be bought in and excited about it, and then letting them run with it. So for my team, everybody has their role, everybody loves their role and excels at it. And that way I don't have to manage them.
Fantastic. Absolutely love that, Joe. Last question. After all your success helping all the people you've helped, I'm curious, what's the number one practice that you try to practice every day to stay centered in your values and stay encouraged to charge forward so you reach even higher heights?
Real prayer, spending time in the morning, devotional time with the Lord. And it's a humbling experience to gaze at the glory of God and see how small you are and how powerful and mighty he is. And that keeps me grounded. And it's where I get my values and my joy.
Absolutely love it. Joe Walters, I want to thank you for being on the show. Thank you for becoming a friend. Thank you for becoming one of our top strategic alliances when it comes to financial advisor to Deferred Sales Trust and capital gains tax solutions. I want to encourage you to keep using your gifts and talents of blessing others through financial planning, through inspiring, taking action for building plans, especially when it comes to exiting their highly appreciated assets. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, could you mind one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
Oh, rjlegacywealth.com. They can check out my story there and who we are as a company, and they can get in contact with me through that as well.
Amazing. Thanks, Joe. I also want to thank everyone who's listening right now to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. Thank you so much for all your support. I want to encourage you to get the book. If you're not getting it, if you haven't seen it yet, it's on Amazon, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. In fact, if you're listening to this right now on April the 20th, we released it on Kindle, and there's a free Kindle version that you can download if you go within the next 12 or so hours as you're listening to this, as we by just going to Amazon and searching Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. Otherwise, you might just catch the hard copy there as well. So appreciate all your support out there. We look forward to talking